And the first is lack of preparation. And that's people aren't invited, right? I don't have the right stakeholders invited. I haven't invited them. I don't have customers there. I haven't looked at who all might be impacted by the solutions I'm delivering and invite some representation from them. Or one of the worst things that I've seen is people are invited late, right? You do not schedule the inspect and adapt and put it on people's calendars a day, a week, or 2 weeks before it happens, right? Since this is a cadence-based ceremony, this can be just like PI planning. We can put like clockwork when our PI planning is happening. I should have these invites on calendars annually. I should know when they hit every single PI, and I have them baked on a cadence. I have seen that far too often where you don't get the participation of people because you wait until the last minute. RTEs, STEs, whoever is responsible for scheduling them waits to the last minute to schedule them. These, I should know when inspect and adapt is. At the same time I know when the PI event is, I know when that PI's inspect and adapt event is. So I can plan it. People can block it out, make sure it's a priority for people to be there. And as a leader, you can make it a priority by your commitment to attend. And we want people to attend, our customers and end users invited. Is it blocked out on your calendar? That's the big thing there, is that whole lack of preparation. Another one I get is there's no story to tell in a demo. This is probably my biggest pet peeve is when I go to a demo and nothing fits together, right? That's the worst demos to go to. These demos that we just go team by team by team and they talk about what they did, it's completely disjointed. It doesn't feel integrated. It doesn't follow any sort of user flow. It doesn't follow any sort of journey map or user flow or how a user would navigate the application. It's all over the place. I like it a house analogy. If I were going to look to buy a house and the real estate agent, first thing they do is walk me straight to the house into the backyard to look at this fancy cedar fence. And then they take me up to the master bathroom. And then they take me back down to the basement. Then they take me back outside to look at the fire pit and the enclosure that they have there. Then they take me back to the master bedroom. Then they take me somewhere else, right? It's disjointed. It doesn't feel how I would navigate a house, right? I want to look at a room in its entirety. And so we want to do that. And it's really to reduce the cognitive load of those people attending. You will get better feedback when your demos are exciting, right? When they meet that. As a customer, if I'm like applying for a loan, if I'm actually going through that loan application process, this doesn't matter what team worked on what screen. It's like when that screen comes up, we talk about what was new for that. So it's less about team by team by team. It's that cohesive demo, right? We're all in an agile release train together because we're developing an integrated solution. Show me that integrated solution, not the individual parts. So we want to tell the story. PowerPoint is the worst, right? You do not get good feedback from PowerPoint presentations, right? Show me a demo. Have a recording in your back pocket in case you get that proverbial, the demo environment goes down. Have recordings available to walk through that. You will get more feedback from an actual recorded demonstration than you will from a PowerPoint slide. Another failure of preparation is fail to train the problem-solving facilitators. Problem solving is hard. It's very hard to go through all those steps in the problem-solving workshop, right? In my experience, you've got to spend at least 2 hours walking whoever's going to facilitate your problem-solving sessions, walking them through the basics of facilitation, all the different pieces of that event. They need to know how to recognize when people are dominating the conversation or when others are not feeling it's safe to share. They've got to recognize that. They need to be able to recognize when the group is going off topic or when they're going down a rabbit hole too far. And the classic is during problem solving, there is a tendency for participants to want to skip the less exciting steps like problem exploration and root cause analysis to get to the more exciting steps like solutioning. So you need strong facilitation skills to keep them going toward the root cause of the problem, to identify why things are really happening, not symptoms, not jumping to solutions that may not actually be solving the real problem, but going through all those steps and sticking to it. This is why it takes 2 hours to actually do a problem-solving workshop, is to explore all those steps so we're not solutioning before we understand the real problem. And time box. Manage this time box. It takes preparation, right? The demo portion of it is going to be 45 to 60 minutes. The metrics, the quantitative and qualitative, is going to be 45 to 60 minutes to talk about the narrative that leads to the retrospective and problem solving, which is about 2 hours. I've seen these a half a day, all the time, right? Half a day is a great investment of time to actually go through these things and identify the demo, which provides feedback into the metrics, and the metrics, which all together provide feedback into the problem solving. And it is going to take a commitment to do that. So that's lack of preparation. Now, a little quote from Bobby Knight there, Indiana basketball coach: the will to succeed is important, but what's more important is the will to prepare. So we have to be prepared for these things. The second area that I would say most challenges happen in is the lack of inspection, right? The metrics don't tell a story. The numbers alone don't mean much. It's the narrative that matters, right? It's all about the narrative here. We want to know, what is the story? Why are metrics where they are? Where is it this? Why is this? For example, let's say the team and leaders are lamenting the fact that they only achieved 67% predictability of this PI. But what's the story of why? How did the teams fall short of expectations? What happened? Was there a shift in market? Was there something unexpected happened? What is the story, right? I need to know that. Another common example is, why did our flow distribution, right? I just dealt with this earlier this year, is we had a capacity allocation policy that said we're going to spend 20% of our time on production support. It came in at 38% as actual time. Why? What happened? What was it that happened? How can we dig into that? Is this a trend that we need to be observant of? Right? Do we need to allocate more time in the next PI for production support, or is this just a blip? Right? What is it? We need to understand the story and tell that. Another lack of inspection problem is the wrong metrics are presented, right? This is not the forum for team level metrics, right? We're at an art level, we're scaling up. We are at the agile release train, the team of teams level. So we're focused on the metrics that showcase how we're doing as a team of teams. That's what we're focused on. It avoids us from wanting to compare teams, and it talks about the synergy of how everyone's working together. We can measure collaboration. We can measure, are we reducing dependencies? Are we becoming more cross-skilled? We want to find out what metrics that we need to measure. We want to avoid vanity metrics, and we want to focus on actionable metrics. Vanity metrics are those statistics that look spectacular on the surface, but they don't translate into any meaningful business results. So you've probably heard coaches, others say we need to be focused on outcomes over outputs, and vanity metrics tend to be very output focused, right? The measuring the number of features completed instead of the value of those features delivered is kind of like the analogy of the operation was a success, but the patient died. It doesn't matter if you cranked out 100 features if it isn't what your customers wanted or customers needed, right? That's what we're after, is we want to make sure that we're focused on those outcomes. Are we actually delivering to our objectives, delivering to our key results as captured in objectives and key results? We want to look at those things. Definitely want to look at those things. And other thing is inspection is, remember, facts are friendly. From Kung Fu Panda, it's not good news. It's not bad news. It's just news. It's the narrative behind it. Metrics are not weapons. We don't want to weaponize metrics. Don't ever, I've had to coach many engineering managers that said, last month you deployed 18 times, but this month you've only deployed 12 times. What gives? Why is your productivity going down? Nothing's more frustrating to an engineering team to hear things like that. So we want to coach them into better questions, shift your perspective. As an engineering manager, say, my engineers want to be productive. They have positive intent. They want to be effective. So what do I need to help them with? What is actually stopping them? You end up with markedly different metrics, markedly different results when you think about that. When you think about they're trying to work as hard as they can, what is in their way? How can I do that? You want to slow a team down, take away their tools. You want to help them find ways to automate things. Help them find ways to get rid of the nuisances that are constantly slowing down, things that they have bottlenecks and weights. right? Where they're always dependent upon a particular vendor and it's never successful. What can I do, right? Thinking about what can I do to empower my team and help them. And with lack of inspection, yeah, it's always tough for us to admit we're wrong, right? We're humans. We have this thing called pride. It's hard to admit when we're broken, right? It's hard to admit when a process is broken, right? We've always done it this way. Well, that's not always going to be what works. And so SAFE was designed to challenge these comfort zones, challenge the status quo, and that requires inspection, heartfelt inspection, right? Really looking at things, taking emotional intelligence, and adaptive intelligence and applying these things to find better ways of doing things. So we have to constantly challenge that. The third area here is lack of adaptation. And you can look at several of those things from the survey that result in lack of adaptation. It was like, I think the number 2 or 3 item on that survey is this. I'll start with the last one: inspect and forget. There's kind of an argument about who coined that phrase, but it is inspect and adapt, not inspect and forget. Adaptation requires that there's things in your backlog that are added to your backlog, actual features added to your backlog that are features focused on process improvement, product improvement, practice improvement, maturity. These things have to have experiments in the backlog, and they have to be talked about, because inspect and adapt is the bookend, right? It's the last thing we do. The next thing we do is PI planning for the next planning interval. And so these items need to be part of that presentation when we talk about the focus and goals and what our solution context and product vision is for the next PI. Has to include these experiments, these ideas for the next PI. Another one is no problem solving at all, right? That's just, you're never going to embrace relentless improvement if you don't inspect and adapt. Or I've seen it too, where it's late. Right? We'll do inspect and adapt in the first iteration of the next PI. Well, how is that feeding improvement into that PI? Right? They don't do that, right? They don't actually plan it where it's supposed to be planned. It's supposed to be the last thing we do before we go into PI planning for the next PI. When our problem-solving groups are too big, we're not going to get adaptation, because when they're too big, you get silent voices or you get people dominating. These problem-solving sessions should be about the size of an agile team. That the whole idea of 5 to 9, maybe a little bit more, somewhere in there where they're actively problem solving. And yes, it's okay for multiple problem solving groups to be solving the same problem. You're going to get more options, more ideas, more opportunities to run experiments. It's quite okay for these groups to be tackling the same problem, because they're going to have different perspectives. And it's kind of this divergent and convergent thinking. The same thing that we'd use with design thinking is we want this convergent thinking and getting all these exploration and this creative brainstorming of potential solutions, and then coming together to say, what is the most feasible solution, the most viable solution, and how can we actually implement that? And so, yeah, we have to do root cause analysis. Don't just jump to solutioning right away. That's not going to lead to positive results. And we want to make sure that we're actually doing adaptation with this, right? And make sure that we have creativity, making sure that there's psychological safety to actually express ideas. We don't want to critique others' responses. That's not what it is. Every idea is welcome. There's power in community. We want to make sure that we're getting to that, having that creativity and having that opportunity to truly inspect and adapt and not inspect and forget. So those are my 3 areas, right? Lack of preparation, lack of inspection, right? Not actually looking at things carefully, and the lack of adaptation, right? Where you're not actually making changes to enhance your product, enhance the system that is developing the products, grow in maturity, and make changes, right? Make powerful, audacious changes that can actually help you improve in the long run.